Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Rudy Caseres. The name of this show is called Overcoming Setbacks. Pretty self explanatory. So, we're going to get right into the meat and potatoes. First and foremost, if you're watching this live, hey, how's it going? Let us know that you're here. Leave a comment. If you're watching the replay later on the day, later on the week, hello, hello, hello. Thank you for joining us. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video. You know what to do by now. Share with your friends, do all the things, making sure that I know that I'm on the right track with this YouTube channel. It's been a blast the past several months. I'm back and I'm excited. And I'm also excited for my panel. So let's bring them up and do our Brady Bunch view. Everyone wave hello. Hello, hello, hello. All right. So this is the way it's going to work in the order. Jen, Amy, Shira, Jenny, and Ernie Mariscal. And first, and certainly as most, tell the whole world who is Jen James.
Well, Jen James is adorkable. Let's just go with that. I have been in the mental health field for many years. I'm sort of all over the place right now, but I'm excited to be here and I appreciate the opportunity. I live in Michigan, if you know, like I live right, well, I guess it's this hand for everyone, right about there. And I have lovely 2 kids and a husband and 3 dogs. So there you go.
Tell me more about these dogs.
Oh, okay. Well, I have 3 big dogs. I have a husky named Legend. He's 13. He's our grumpy old man. And then I have 2 litter mates that we were foster failures. We were only going to adopt one, but we could not adopt the other one. And they are named Princess Zelda and Barry Allen the Flash.
Oh, nice. And I know Shira's going
And
to
we
have
call
some adoption stories and
yeah.
foster stories herself. So we'll
Yeah.
we'll hold off on that for. But thank you, Jen. Glad you're on. This is the first time I've ever gotten to interview you for real. So
I know. I'm excited. I appreciate you reaching out.
yes, finally roped you in, and hopefully not the last time. And let's move on to tell everyone who is Amy Gamble.
Well, I'm a mental health advocate. I've been a mental health advocate for about 10 years. In my past life, I was an Olympic athlete, and now I do a lot of peer coaching. And I'm currently writing a book about some of my experiences, and really it's about resilience. So it's perfect for the topic that we're talking about today. And I'm just really happy to be here with everybody.
Yeah, and you are the Olympics too, right?
That's right. Yep.
How can we not mention that?
Right. Long time ago.
Yeah. So thank you for being on. You've been one of my biggest supporters as well. I got to interview you for This Is My Brave a long time ago. I almost forgot about that. So glad you're back on, and I'm glad you're still supporting me because I appreciate it over all the years. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's get on to our next guest. Tell everyone who is Shira Collings.
Hi, everybody. I'm Shira. I'm an eating disorder therapist and mental health advocate in Philadelphia. So I primarily work with people with eating disorders, disordered eating, and body image distress. I work with a lot of LGBTQ plus and neurodivergent people. And I also work for a mental health advocacy organization led by and for people with lived experience called the National Empowerment Center. And I do also foster kittens and have 2 adopted cats. And I'm excited to be here.
Now, what is the hard number of cats that you cannot go past as far as adopting?
2. We have 2 adopted cats, and that's our limit. Everyone else is a foster from here on out. So
For
we're
now,
sticking to that.
until the right cat comes along, or a dog.
Unless we get more space. If one day we get more than 900 square feet, then at that point that could change. But for now, only 2 adopted cats in 900
Well,
square feet.
that's certainly something to work towards. How is it like being friends with Alanis Morissette?
Friends is a far stretch. It's such an honor, though, to have presented at the same conference as her. That was pretty cool. I should add that to my resume or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, I'm friends with Usher too, as you know. So we're We're
Yes.
hanging out with the A-listers.
That's
Okay,
basically
enough lollygagging. Let's get on to our next guest, who is Jenny Lynn.
Yes. Jenny Lynn is primarily a performer. I've been doing sideshow professionally since 2009, which is an odd thing to say. My degree is in mortuary science, which is an odder thing to say. And I have built a very small sort of influencer platform that I use to advocate for mental health and chronic illness. Those have been my big focuses since pre-pandemic, and I kind of dialed in to that before disappearing completely in 2020 for about a year and a half.
Now, the real question: are you still unkillable?
Unkillable, but always hurtable. That has become my tagline. So far, I have not been able to be killed, but there seems to be no limit to the number of accidents I can get myself into.
Okay, and so yeah, we've known each other for quite some time. I think we first met in like 2006 or seven, and we went our separate
Something like
ways.
that.
You went on to a mortuary school, and I appreciate that. So many people, like including myself, we kind of just like dilly daddled through life to our 20s and tried to get into like theater schools that were going to be famous. And you did the smart thing by getting your diploma first in an actual like real job. Let's be honest. And so you always have that to fall back on, but you're doing all these other cool things too. So that was smart, and I hope you always remember that.
Yeah, it was everything or nothing is permanent in life except for death and taxes, and I don't like taxes, so I took the death route.
Now, when was the last time you hung out with a dead person?
It's actually been a while. I haven't been working in the field. So I think the last person was my dear friend. Oh gosh, what was his name? Marcus. He was 42, and it was in the New York City morgue. Uh, Yeah, I wrote a couple pieces about him because it's just I mean it's an interesting it's a very interesting line of work to be in, and a very interesting sort of way to be able to care for people, at the end of everything.
Yeah. Now, is it like SAG where you just do a little bit of mortuary science to keep the healthcare?
Gosh, I wish. No, right now I'm totally out of the death care game, but planning on getting back into it.
Well, it's good work when you can find it. Now, let's move on to our last and certainly as most guest panelist. Tell everyone again who is Ernie Modistel.
Well, I am an inspirational speaker and entrepreneur. I love speaking and inspiring others, especially telling my story about how I overcame PTSD. Well, I can't really say overcame, but controlled my PTSD. Me being a veteran, I served in Iraq, and when I retired, I came back and I had a lot of problems trying to transition into the civilian world. So I always tell other veterans my story and help them overcome what they're going through in life.
Yeah, and to be clear, when we say overcoming, that doesn't mean everything is tied up into a big happy bow and we don't have problems anymore. It just
Yes.
means it can mean different things, but for me, it just means that you develop a skill set in order to fight back and not let it completely just overwhelm you and have its way with you. And so we all have our different journeys, and so
Mhm.
recovery, it can look different things to different people, and we're going to hear those stories. So let's get back up to our full grid. Like I said, we'll go with James, Amy, Shira, Jenny, and Ernie. So let's well, first off, obviously the first question is, what is the setback in which you overcame? And so let's get on to Jen.
Awesome. Well, I've had a lot of setbacks in my life, and it was kind of hard when I was approaching which one that I really wanted to focus on. And I believe the one that I think is most impactful and might be most interesting is my breast cancer journey. And Rudy, I just want to make clear: do you want me to go into it now, or are we just going to go back to that with the other panelists? I'm welcome. I'm
The floor is yours.
Oh, Okay, thank you. So in 2014, it was actually, April's a hard month for me in general, but uh, April 20th, which is 420, it was happened to be Easter. And I was taking a shower and I found a lump in my left breast. And honestly, I thought it was, it was just, I was so confused. So I asked my husband, I was like, hey, do you feel this too? And he did. And I kind of yelled at him. I was like, why didn't you feel this before? But, and then I was like, the Easter bunnies put an egg in my tit. And so I was kind of thrown. Like I wasn't sure what to do. And being in the mental health field, being an advocate, I felt like I was taking care of everyone else when I was going through my own trauma. And I found out within a couple of days that I actually had 2 lumps and I was stage 2 plus, almost triple negative with my diagnosis. And I sat there and I was trying to figure out the best way to approach this. One, because I had kids. I had one who's in first grade and one that was in middle school, and trying to make it less scary for them. And the best way for me and how I tackle life in general is through humor. And I had a choice, and everyone has a choice when they go through this, is whether you can dive into a depression and really feel bad, and you have every right to feel that way. I mean, it's really shitty to figure out that you have cancer, and you're allowed to have those emotions. Or you can just sort of like, nope, not going to get me, going to take that route. So I definitely took the route of not going to let me get me down, because even though I had a 50% chance of living, I wasn't going to let that hold me back. And so, like I said, as we approached it with humor, and and Rudy, you know this, I love farting unicorns. I love images of farting unicorns. It makes me laugh so hard. And so I just kind of was like, hey, send me unicorn farts. And that was sort of like, instead of sending prayers, because not everyone likes to pray. Not everyone has that. And for me, I'm spiritual, but I'm not set on one particular thing. And so I was like, send me unicorn farts. And it sort of became this viral sensation of hashtag Team Unicorn Farts, where my friends created a Facebook page. And on that page, I was able to share to everyone who wanted to know, to whoever chose to follow the page, what was going on with my diagnosis. I was able to share funny stories, and again, with my kids, like my youngest especially was like, worried about a lot of different things. And I said, you know what, we're going to make fun of cancer. And in doing so, we would just literally blame cancer on everything, or we would jokingly say the cancer card. And so like Gibby is my youngest, and we were at a restaurant and he dropped his fork on the floor and he yelled really loud, "Thanks, cancer." And nobody understood what was going on in that moment. He like, everyone looked at me and I was like, yeah, my cancer. It just knocked that fork right out of your hand, So it really helped us all come closer together, but also find a sense of purpose, to continue this, to be connected. And I was even like I said, with the unicorns, like I was getting drive-by unicorns, like rubber ducky unicorns that were getting chucked in my yard and mailed to me various places. Someone set this up. It was hilarious, and it was awesome, because every time someone would post a picture of them wearing pink lipstick, because normally I wear red lipstick, and I was like, I guess I got to get used to pink. And so everyone started posting pink lipstick. And just anytime somebody would post a pic or send like an image or whatever, they were thinking of me and they were sending me positive, vibes. And that really meant a lot to me. Even through my treatment, when I had chemo, I would come every week with a different costume. Basically, like one week I had a Batman mask, and then I fell asleep from the meds, and then the nurse comes up and they're like, your true identity is showing. And so I would make people laugh throughout that. I wore a giant unicorn mask, scared the shit out of the nurses, and that made me laugh. So I always tried to bring joy, because we're literally was in a den of sickness and felt like death and all of this medication. It was just like, you know what, I'm going to bring a little bit of light to the situation of people around me. And that's sort of how I was driven to survive. And I'm been in remission for 9 years. So I'm very happy that I'm successful in that. And it's still scary. Anytime you feel something or know something, you're like, is that? And then I realized, no, it's my pecs. I'm working out. So like, oh, that's a pec, not a lump. And so throughout that process, Team Unicorn Fart still comes along. I'll often share, like, if somebody's struggling, I'll be like, I'm sending you unicorn farts, and just know that that's a good vibe. And again, like I said, here I am 9 years later. I had a double mastectomy reconstructive surgery where they took my belly flat to make my boobs. So apparently that's why I was holding on to that for so many years. And I think with that, I decided to do a mastectomy tattoo. So I have a full mermaid tattoo. I have mermaid shells, gems, all the 9 yard. I'm very blessed and I'm very excited. So when I look in the mirror, I don't see the scars that are there. I see a fabulous unicorn ready to spend your time in the water and find that self-care. So the way I overcame again was, bringing it back to the topic, is really through humor and really being honest with my family. There were definitely days where after chemo, Friday, my husband would make me a steak because I was craving iron. And then Saturday, Sunday, I was in bed and my kids would watch the Detroit Tiger games with me, or watch American Pickers or something like that, just to get my mind off it, knowing that I was going to be in bed. So they took care of me and I appreciate it. So that's sort of my story.
American Pickers goes so hard. Great pick.
It just was one of those things. Like, we still think about it. Like, oh, remember that time, that year, the year of the cancer, we like to say. So,
yeah, I mean, you certainly have been through the ringer, and I love the sense of humor. And have you been told by people like, oh, you shouldn't joke about that?
I had, some people, no one really had the balls to say that directly to my face, I'll be honest. But I think people probably thought about that, but it was just like, this is my journey and you can't judge me on my journey. So I do get a lot of people who are like, hey, you were so strong in the way you handled it. Can you help my friend? And I was like, I can tell your friend my journey and what helped me, but I can't tell your friend what to do for their journey. The best thing that I can do is offer support in the sense of like, I get it. Like, you're allowed to have shitty days. You're allowed to, one of my biggest things, one of the moments that really got me, there was 2 times when I really broke down. And one was the survivor guilt, because I saw a lot of people dying of breast cancer. And I was hearing people saying, oh, my friend just lost their battle and this and this. And I was feeling like, why am I surviving, right? But I have a purpose, obviously, and maybe it's because maybe to make people laugh, and that's my purpose, and I hold on to that. And so if somebody doesn't like the way that I approached my journey, move along, don't care, it's not my problem. So.
Awesome. Yes. And for those wondering, this is what unicorn farts look like. All right, let's.
Yeah, it's magical.
That's awesome.
All right, we've already used up enough time on this. Let's go to.
Sorry,
Amy.
Thanks, Rudy.
What is the overcome in which you have setbacked?
Wow, I also had a lot of setbacks in the course of my journey, but what comes to my mind as the most significant one that I really had to overcome was way back in 2005, and I started trauma therapy for sexual assaults that I had experienced. I had 4 different people who sexually assaulted me by the time I was 16, but I had suppressed all those memories, and then I went to trauma therapy. And without having any kind of warning or really knowing anything about delayed expression PTSD, which was formerly known as delayed onset PTSD, I ended up having an onslaught of flashbacks. And that went on for like 3 years, and it totally changed the course of my life, because before I had gone into that type of therapy. I had been working in corporate America. I had this really successful career, even though I was diagnosed at that time with bipolar disorder. So I've got this bipolar disorder that I'm managing. And then all of a sudden, I go to this trauma therapy, and now I've got delayed expression PTSD. And it took about 3 very long years. And finally, the flashbacks finally stopped. And it was a really long journey. But some of the things that I did to be able to overcome that was turn to my sort of creative expression and imagination. And I used a lot of videos, and I created this sort of a videotaping session where I called the movie If the Toys Could Talk. And I used characters and things like that, which I didn't know it at the time. But what I was doing was actually um, putting words to the memories. And when I put words to the memories or put words to the flashbacks, it kind of integrated those into my into my memory and not into my traumatic memory. And so that helped me to heal. And so it was really the creative expression and being able um, to heal over a course of time. But that was by far the biggest thing that I ever had to overcome. And so now I'm in remission with PTSD, and also in partial remission with bipolar disorder too. So
Awesome, awesome. And like for a lot of people, it's become easier to talk about our own mental health and setbacks, but there's um still a long way to go as far as people opening up about sexual assault. So I know it's not easy, wasn't easy, and it's probably not even easy now to talk about. And so I commend you for that, because it really does motivate other people to come out and hopefully find some kind of, obviously, like, it's something that will always traumatize you in some way, but we want to make sure that people are at least comfortable enough with talking about this, and also that the perpetrators, there's justice for them as well.
yeah. Well, I think that that's a really good point, because one of the things that I noticed was uh, talking about mental health was a lot more socially acceptable than talking about just even saying it in a snippet, like being sexually assaulted by 4 people by the time I was 16, was getting all kinds of sort of taken back reactions from people, and probably for a lot of different reasons. But one of the hopes that I have in writing the book that I'm writing about my experience with this, and really the book is about resilience, because that's what it took in order to be able to get through everything I had to get through. But I'm hoping that it will allow people the opportunity to have inspiration to come out and share their own stories, because that helps in the healing process.
For sure. Thank you. We'll circle back to you, Amy. Yes, applause, applause. Appreciate you sharing. Let's move on to Shira. What is? I know I said it wrong the last time. Don't worry. What is the okay, now I gotta think. What is the setback in which you overcometh?
So yeah, I also had a few different setbacks come to mind when you originally posted that you were doing this and had tagged me, inviting me to join. Which thank you for that.
Sure.
But I think the one that feels maybe most important to me, because it really influences all the work I do, and just gives me a lot of passion for working with the people I work with, is my own body image struggles and disordered eating struggles. And that's definitely been a long journey for me, something that I've struggled with throughout like my teen years and my 20s. And I really overcame it through learning about the world of fat liberation and all the work that that movement is doing to challenge the idea that thinness is inherently healthy and fatness is inherently unhealthy, and to challenge kind of the ideas that have been ingrained into us by diet culture, or this idea that we all need to eat as little as possible, or the way we need to eat needs to be about trying to conform to thinness, and that we can tell by looking at someone how they're eating, how they're exercising, but not only that, but also like their moral worth, their level of self-discipline, their level of hard work versus laziness, and all of these attributions and assumptions that we tend to make as a culture, um, according by about body size. And so I think I got really immersed in the world of fat liberation and um, body size diversity, anti-diet activism, and just kind of got a chance to unpack a lot of my own ideas and a lot of the misconceptions that I had or biases that were ingrained into me. And um, that really felt liberating. I met a lot of people who were also doing that work, and doing that work in an intersectional way, talking about the intersections of anti-fatness and anti-blackness and white supremacy, and the intersections of anti-fatness and ableism, things like that. And yeah, I just got so passionate about that and learned so much from that and healed so much from that, through therapy also, and through different types of groups and spaces and communities and peer support. Um, and yeah, it really inspired me to work in the field myself and become an eating disorder therapist. And now I support people through that journey and really love it. I think it looks very different for everyone. I think there's a lot of different things that can contribute to eating disorders and disordered eating. But I really love being able to integrate like social justice values, including that liberation, but also liberation of all identities and all people, into the work. So
Yeah, one of the
that's
things
kind
I
of the
learned from you, yeah, one of the things I've learned from you is that it's not just about acceptance. It's about like to loving our bodies and being proud of who we are, and not like if someone is offended by how we look, whether we're fat or skinny or whatever, anything between, that's them. It's like, just don't discriminate against me and let me love myself, right?
absolutely. Yeah. And I think I use the word liberation because I think it even goes beyond love. Like, obviously, I'm all for self love. I think that's so important. And I want to support people in that. That's my goal for myself, for everyone around me, everyone I work with. But I think I use the word liberation because there's systemic bias, systemic discrimination, and oppression against people in larger bodies or fat people. Some people reclaim that word as like a neutral description, not a negative word that means anything inherently bad or unhealthy. So that's the context I'm using that word in, not as something pejorative. Um, but people in larger bodies, fat people, do face discrimination and oppression. And I personally have thin privilege or straight size privilege. So I've never faced that. But even just the fact that I knew that other people experience that, and witnessing that and seeing how people in larger bodies are portrayed in the media and TV shows, are talked about, seeing how fatness is talked about as a disease, as a lack of self-control, as this thing that means you're lazy or bad or not hardworking enough. Even though I have thin privilege, so I personally wasn't talked about that way, I felt the pressure to like, I better stay thin. I better maintain my thin privilege. And if I if I don't maintain that privilege, if my body size does change, like I know exactly what people will think of me and the types of oppression I might face. And even that was enough to cause a lot of hardships with body image and disordered eating and my relationship with food and with myself in general. And so that's why I use the word liberation, because I think it's not just about our
Right.
relationships to ourselves. I think the way that body size in general is talked about and the way that oppression operates, on the basis of body size, like that translates to individual relationships with food and body. And so what we need to be working toward is a culture where everyone feels liberated and everyone, there's like collective
Yeah.
body liberation and body love, not just individual.
Yes, and I'm so glad we got to go a little bit more in depth on this. Yeah, snaps. I can't do it, but I'm sure this won't be the last time that we go into these issues. So thank you. Let's move on to Jenny Lynn.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to apologize. You've probably seen Beasley, my cat, bouncing around. She's having a day. She's like a hyperactive toddler. Um, yeah. So, like everyone else, I've definitely had a number of setbacks. And the biggest one that always comes to mind is the brain tumor that we found in 2011, which was likely something I was born with, and it was very slow growing, and it didn't actually, get me until I was about 24. Um, and there's just so much tied up with that, especially as I'm listening to everybody else's stories. Of course, there was the obvious ness of finding out that I had this brain tumor, but in real time, we went from diagnosis to surgery in about a week and a half. So there was really no processing, there was no sitting with it and trying to figure out, oh, where do we go from here? It was just very much, we discovered that a bunch of these symptoms I've been having were caused by a tumor, and thankfully it was benign, but massive and causing problems and would have eventually killed me. But it was such a whirlwind that it felt like I had to do a lot of the work after the fact. And part of that work was also, uh, I started having symptoms without realizing what they were when I was about 13. My gag reflex disappeared. I started getting headaches, and the headaches got a lot worse. When we were doing shows together, Rudy, at SMC, there'd be times when I'd be on stage and suddenly a headache would hit. And it was bad enough that the pain was horrible enough that I should have gone to the ER, but, I was on stage and didn't have a choice. So I got really good at just pushing through these horrific pain moments that were happening multiple times a day. And they got more frequent the closer we got to diagnosis. So it really turned into a situation where my body became unsafe. Just I've been dealing with so many weird things that have been happening physically, and then you layer in things like sexual assault, and I mean, not to play that dismissively, but I just there's so many things that compounded this idea that my body was my enemy. To the point where I still use language constantly. I've been working at this for, years, but I still use language to say, oh God, my body's trying to kill me today. Like it's a completely separate entity. So I separated from my physical self, became actively angry at what I call my meat suit. And it became an implication in a lot of other ways too. I'm also asexual, which took me ages to figure out because it's not talked about very much. And part of my anger towards my body was tied up in that too, because it was kind of like, well, am I actually not experiencing sexual attraction, or is this because my body is so unsafe? It made me feel like I was a stranger to myself in a lot of different ways. And I'm still doing the work now. Even after the surgery, I actually at first wished I hadn't gotten it because recovery was so hard. I had to relearn how to walk. I was suffering from ataxia, so I couldn't use my hands properly. I could move my limbs, but I had no dexterity for weeks. My gag reflex came back, which is a problem if you're a professional sword swallower. I'm sure you all understand. We've all been there.
Tell me about it.
Right? So at that point, it felt, recovery felt worse in that moment or in that time than the actual tumor had felt. So I started going to therapy, started talking about these body issues, and it tied into a whole bunch of stuff. Like I said, sexuality, I had body image issues. Um, then I was diagnosed with chronic migraine on top of having had the brain tumor, and literally had a neurologist tell me I was just neurologically unlucky. Um, and then, the pandemic happened, which was super great. I got sick very early on, really mild case, but it turned into long COVID. So now I spent 2021 and 2022 pretty much on disability because my body stopped working again. Um, I still struggle with fatigue. I struggle with chronic pain. The migraines are still here, separate, but sometimes compounded by it. So I'm still not, and I don't want to say over it, because you never get over these things, but I'm still actively having to do the work to deal with these health setbacks. And there goes the cat in the background, really, right now. Um, and the cat helps, actually. Beasley and the cat before her, Smalley, were, they have been incredibly amazing emotional comfort animals. Just having them there, they don't know if my body's not working or if I'm angry at it, and I can just sit with them and not think about it for a minute. But it's a lot of work, and I'm very, 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 very vocal about it, to the point where some people have been very unkind and accused me of trying to get attention online. But the reason I'm so vocal about it is because I know there's a lot of us that are struggling with it, and don't have words for it or don't have the support system. And the number of people, friends and strangers, who've reached out to me because they too have that feeling that their body is against them and that they're trapped in this prison that's actively trying to harm them, even though it's supposed to be them. People reach out all the time about it. And, as much as the struggle has been horrendous at times, the fact that I can at least provide comfort to other people really kind of makes it worth it in a way. And like Jen mentioned, humor is my thing. I have extremely dark humor. You have
Oh yeah.
to if you go to school for embalming. uh, so I've also helped people be able to laugh at their own situations. And yeah, it's work. It's still work all the time, but it's it's a process, and it will be, and that's okay. There's good days and bad days, but for the most part, I'm at a place now where I can at least look at the situation. I understand where I am. I understand the work that I need to do. I have tools to cope. I have a support system to fall back on those times where I just can't cope by myself. And yeah, it's kind of an ongoing thing.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's just some days you just can't cope. I mean, the reason why the show is called Overcoming Setbacks and not Overcometh come it, I don't know, set, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But thank you, Jenny, for sharing. Can half of the guests snap for Jenny, another half clap? Hey, there we go. Hey, that worked.
It did.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jenny. Let's move on to Ernie.
Hello. Um, I'm just amazed by the awesome individuals that I'm doing this with. I mean, your stories just inspire me. Um, the setback, of course, I've had many. I went through abuse as a kid. I joined the military at a young age. I was 19. I did 21 years. Went to Iraq once, or 12. I'm sorry, twice. And when I got towards my retirement, or when I said I need to retire, I was having anger issues. I knew I wasn't right mentally, and I went to go see the mental health clinic. And the first thing they did was just throw pills at me, and but it just didn't feel right to me. I just didn't feel right at all. And when I retired, I got out, and I figured, I was going to get a job quickly. I mean, why wouldn't I? I was in charge of 73 soldiers. I was responsible for millions upon millions of dollars of equipment, and I figured people were going to be like, just chasing after me to get them or get me to go work for them. Well, that didn't happen. And now, mind you, I was very successful in the military, and when nobody called me, nobody emailed me anything, I started questioning my accomplishments. I started questioning who I was. And worst of all, I started questioning my worth in life. And so I turned to what I knew best was I started drinking heavily. I went into a deep depression. I was in the dark really bad. And it got to a point where I just didn't want to be on this earth any longer. And in those moments, the way I would talk to myself, I was worthless, and I call them demons, where they just constantly just negative, 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 and they beat that in your brain, or my brain at least in that time. And it got to a point, like I said, I wanted to just take myself from this earth. And on that day, I got a phone call, and it was a teacher asking me if I would go speak at the local high school about my military career. And at first, I didn't want to, but I went anyway. And when I stood in front of that classroom, I felt peace, I felt belonging, and best of all, I felt worth. And that's when I knew I had a purpose. And I think that's one of the biggest things we need to look at in life is a purpose. Because once I got that purpose, I felt so inspired. I felt like I needed to get this, because doing that, it takes no pressure. It takes no, I don't need to be pushed. It's just passion. It's all passion. I get up thinking about, stories I need to say. I wake up thinking about what kind of videos can I make to put on social media so I can talk to the individuals that watch me, because it's all about, I think we need a lot of inspiration, just like the stories that we're hearing right now, about overcoming. I think we need to share those more, because all we ever see on social media, the news and all this stuff is just negative. We need these positivities. And I think that helps a lot of people, especially when we're going through dark times in our lives. We need that positivity. We need that inspiration, and then that's why I made this t-shirt, because I am the hero. I decided to become the hero for me, because we all need a hero. But honestly, we need to be the hero in our own lives. It starts with us, because you cannot fill anybody's cup in life if your cup is empty. And I truly believe that. And of course, when I tell people I'm an inspirational speaker, they think, oh, his life is perfect. No, it's not perfect. I still have bad days. I still go through depressions, but I just fight back. And that's why every day I say, keep up the fight. And that is what I live by, because you know what? I ain't going out of this life without a fight, and I'm going to live it to the fullest, and I'm going to smile, and I'm going to have my own unicorn farts.
Now, okay, that needs to be your new ending for your speeches.
I love that. I just hearing your story. I mean, I was like, wow, I would love to hang out with her.
Thank you. Same, Ernie. Same.
Appreciate that.
Well,
But
next time,
that's my story.
yeah. Next time Jen is in Southern California, we'll have to all get together. Same thing with
Oh,
Jen
heck
too.
yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome. Thank you so much for sharing again. It's been great getting to know you over the past year and see you blossom and share your story all over the area. And so great.
Appreciate it.
Yes. Now, can everyone do the nay nay for Ernie? No
What's
one?
the name? I don't even know that.
I don't know.
I don't know. Am I too?
It's fine. It's fine. Everyone do no. Okay, all right. So let's move on. We got okay. So I could already tell like we're gonna go over the top of the hour, but I don't want to go too much over. And if you got to leave at the top of the hour, that's totally fine. I did want to talk a little bit about more of our setbacks on a macro level, and I only have time for like a couple people. So if you want to raise your hand, if you want to address, whether it be surviving breast cancer or eating disorders or anything on just not just about your experience, but and I know Shira kind of went into the grander scheme of things, but raise your hand if you want to expungiate or what's the word? Okay, raise your hand.
I
Extrapolate.
just want to say one thing that I forgot to say though about
Sure.
overcoming, or at least the drive that I had to overcome this, and the way that I worked towards it was basically for my children, because I wanted them to see, no matter what is thrown their way, that they can choose the direction that you can do it with strength, and you can move ahead with positivity and humor, and using it as a way to, like, this was a shitty moment, but look what we've done in this moment. Look how we've perceived or persevered, and drove to the end goal of me being successful. I mean, they even had T-shirts that said, my mom beat breast cancer, and all I got was this lousy T-shirt, and it said hashtag Team Unicorn Heart. So like, that is what I mean about, like, with my kids, like, that was my initial drive, but showing others and that inspiration in the sense of, nothing's going to stop me, and maybe that can help support you and your struggles, or whatever you're going through at that time too, regardless of it is.
Awesome. Jenny.
Jen is awesome.
This is a complete departure from the thing I was just discussing, but I'm, as you know, Rudy, I'm recently going through a very, very difficult breakup where my partner of 6 years, literally took off in the middle of the night and left me a note on the coffee table. And I was gonna bring that up because, the topical. But what I'm realizing, I'm about a month out from that now, and I'm a lot more resilient than I thought I was. Not to be, like, oh, check me out, I'm so well adjusted, because I'm not. In terms of, just doing the work that I've done on completely unrelated setbacks, I'm at a place now where, I'm on friendly terms with my ex. We're amicable. We're able to kind of split our lives that we built together. There's not this animosity that was there in past breakups, and it's just amazing to see. I never would have expected, given my history, that the work that I've done overcoming other things would have so majorly. I honestly cannot believe that Jenny did not come out. She's gone. I don't know where she is. She's on vacation somewhere. Hope she's having a good time. But I'm marveling at just the way I'm able to cope with this in a fashion that I've never, ever, ever been able to do before in my entire life. And it's incredible to see. And I'm trying to be as vocal about that as possible too on social media, just so that people, other people can see that, oh, it's worth it. Just, keep doing the thing. You're going to remember it, and it'll help you in other ways. Because there's no reason that a tumor and a breakup should have had anything to do with one another, with the exception of being sad about it. And yet, it all kind of came together to get me through this.
Well, hell yeah. Ernie, did you have something to say?
Yes, real quick, I just want to say, Jenny, when you say, oh, I don't want to be all, you should be very proud, because there's two things that tell you about that you're a badass, that you can overcome, and you're powerful. And I think you're holding that being powerful back a little bit. Show it to the world. You are powerful. You are a badass. Show the world.
Thank you, Ernie. Hell yeah.
You're welcome.
We all need an Ernie in our corner to just pump us up.
Right? I am all for it.
Yeah. Amy, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that when Jenny was talking, it reminded me that when we have setbacks, that's the beauty of the setback, is that when we overcome it, we build our resilience. And so it doesn't matter what the setback was. It could have been a failed grade at school, and we had to get through it so we could graduate, or whatever it may be. But that is a foundational block of resilience. And every time you have something where you stumble and you get knocked down, you get back up again, you're building resilience every single time. So I love your story, Jenny, and I think that's an awesome tale of resilience building.
Thank you.
Great. And Shira, did you have anything to say?
I just want to echo what everybody else said. And yeah, I've noticed for me that it's felt similar, that like my recovery from disordered eating, or I like to call it like dropping out of diet culture, that's given me the strength, I think, to, and like courage to question other types of social norms and other types of, I think, also things that are in our culture, like a lot of narratives about who you're supposed to be or what you're supposed to do or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, I dropped out of diet culture and I don't conform to that. And if I can do that, then I can be myself in any other way too. And so I feel really grateful for that.
Great. And as for myself, I've had to battle a lot of different things, from abusive childhood, neglect, to having a mental breakdown in the army, to just dealing with poverty, and always trying to keep on fighting, like suicidality and bipolar and all kinds of other trauma. And it's it's not easy. Let me just say that. And it's never over. Like, even if you're in recovery or it's been years, there's always something to fight against. That's life. Life is suffering. It can be beautiful sometimes.
Hmm.
Definitely can be really great, but yeah, it can suck sometimes. And I'm about to start my next battle. Yesterday, I was served with divorce papers, and that's going to be quite the fight. And it's going to be long. It's going to be hard. I can't really talk about it much more than that, but it's gonna lead to some changes. It's gonna lead to some transitions. So I might not be able to do this again for a little bit, but any chance that I can, I will. Um, and yeah, I'm sad that it happened, but like, I agree with it. Like, it just wasn't going to work out, and I guess it's better to do it now, rather than 20 years later. And so, as sad as that makes me, I'm looking forward to the next chapter, and this will be something I overcome. It might take a while, but I feel like, in a way, I'm going to have my life back, and I'm going to be able to pick up where I left off before I got married. And I mean, there definitely were beautiful moments this past 5 years, but um, it was not meant to be. So here we go.
I feel like,
Next.
I mean, Rudy, it's like all of us with this resilience. It's like, how many effing times do I have to be a phoenix coming out of this burning ashes
Yeah,
of
like, now
light? You know,
what?
it sounds like all of us. And I always say that. I was like, damn, I hope I'm prettier this time, with my next setback that I'm dealing with. But I think all of us, what the resilience from all of this and the learnings from each and every one of these, and same with you, and I'm sorry to hear about the divorce, but it sounds like you have the right mindset right now. And always here if you need me. So.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. Let's real quickly, let's get into final thoughts. Feel free to take this time to do any self promotion as well. Shout out your mom or give any resources, you name it. The floor is yours. Let's go back to Jen.
Well, I am trying to make my brand Empathy Mom a little bigger. So if you are interested in being a guest blogger for writing about your story or a piece of what you want to share, I'm always open to having guest bloggers. I think it's wonderful to give a platform for others. So you can read my blog at empathymom.com. It's a little slow right now. I've gone through a lot of death in the family, so but that's why I want to bring on other people, because I think keeping the momentum going is good. So empathymom.com, and if you want, reach out via that. Thank you.
Awesome. I don't think there's any moms on other than you on this panel. Am I wrong?
Well, my kids were extracted, like tumors, I guess, like Jenny's tumor, in a really quick way. So they were C-section babies. So
All right.
there you go.
Well, thank you again, Jen. Like I'm sure this won't be the last time. Might be for a while, but thank you so much for your support. You've had my back since we first met. It's been great to see you just keep overcoming setbacks because you've had quite a few. Like you only really scratched the surface. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Until next time. Final thoughts,
Thanks,
Amy.
Rudy.
Of course.
Sure. Well, I'm in the process, as I mentioned, about writing a book, and I'm still not through it yet. But when that comes out, I hope you guys will pick up a copy. You can find me in a Facebook group called Speak Up for Mental Health. It's speak.
Did we lose Amy? Oh, well, 1 second. Okay, let's move on to Shira and then we'll come back to Amy. So, final thoughts, Shira?
Okay, just want to say thank you for having me. And thanks everyone for sharing your really powerful stories. It was amazing to hear from everyone. And I can just suggest some like anti-diet and fat liberation resources if anyone is interested in learning more. I know I've shared them on previous panels, but I'll just share them again. The book Anti-Diet by Christy Harrison is great. She also has a podcast called Food Psych that's about fat liberation and eating disorder recovery. There's also a great podcast called Maintenance Phase that's about kind of just combating a lot of myths about body size and diet culture. And I think those are kind of the main resources that I'd recommend. There's also something called Body Trust. That website has a lot of, I think it's called the Center for Body Trust. They have a lot of good resources and different handouts and worksheets and articles on those types of themes. But thanks again for having me.
Of course. And cancel Tony Robbins, correct?
Yes, of course. Always.
Great. Thank you again for coming on. I know for sure it won't be the last time. And best wishes to you and your cats.
Thank you.
All right, let's get on to Jenny. Final thoughts.
Final thought, I guess, is if you're going through it, just keep going through it. Beyond that, if you want to find me on Instagram, I'm at terminally_unhip, and you can just reach out and I check messages there. If you need someone to talk to, or you just, want to see videos of this insane cat next to me doing weird things. And then for the next several weeks, I am going to be at the Renaissance Pleasure Fair in Irwindale. So if you're a nerd and you like dressing up like it's old-timey things in 90-degree heat, that's where I'll be.
Why is it called the Pleasure Fair?
That's just what they called it originally. The people who founded it back in the 60s called it, it's the one in SoCal is the first one ever. And they called it the Renaissance Pleasure Fair because they were hippies, and I'm sure they were probably doing drugs.
Of course. When does it close again?
I don't actually know the date. There are 4 more weekends, though, including this one.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Jenny. I'm glad you were able to make it today. I know it's not easy most days, so.
Thank you for having me and for texting me.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure, and I'm glad we got to work again. It won't be the last time, of course. And I always appreciate your stories. You're so multifaceted. You can speak about a lot of different things. So that's why I'm excited to have you on again, because who knows what you'll be talking about next. Maybe dead people. All right. Final thoughts, Ernie. And just so you know, we got all the links to stuff in the YouTube description too.
Awesome. You can find me on social media, all platforms, Ernie Mariscal. Also, I have a website, keepupthefightapparel.com. You can find all my t-shirts. They're all inspirational. It gives you that reminder to keep up the fight in life. My thing is failure, setbacks, or however you want to label it. On the other side of those things is a better you. So know that when you hit that, know that on the other side is going to be a better you. So with failure, I always embrace it because failure lets me know what I need to work on in life. So I start working on that to become a better me. And when I become a better me, I have a better life.
Well said. Thank you again, everyone. Looks like Amy won't be able to join us, so thank you, Amy Gamble, for being here. And go join her Facebook group if you're on Facebook. And thank you to Jen James. Thank you to Shira Collins. Thank you to Jenny Lynn. Thank you to Ernie Maniscal. And I'm Rudy Caseres. You can follow me at Rudy Caseres on most of the things, not on TikTok, but you can also subscribe on YouTube. You're already on the channel. You're already watching the video. So put in that extra work. It's worth it. I do these live streams. I try to do them every other week, but who knows? Going forward. So, but I will be back, and thank you so much for everyone who has shown their support over a few months. Thank you to people who have been on here over the past several months. So that's going to do it for this week. I can't wait to see you all again in YouTube land and beyond. Hopefully some of you in person in the future. And I'm bad at outros, so I always delegate this to one of my panelists, and I have a patent pending way of delegating this. Boop, boop. It is Jen.
What am I doing?
You're
just kissing.
You're gonna sign us off.
Goodbye. Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming. Come and rewatch the video. Subscribe. We love you. Take care. Peace out.